It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter in a special shout out episode. And as some of you may know, this channel started to reappear as Channeling Science at 2018, 2019. Then it went through a couple of phases, and now it is Spirit of Matter. When I started my journey in astrology, I would be listening to Lada Duncheva. I would be listening to Molly McCord. And amongst those, I would be listening both to the channelings that people got, okay, or even Lada, to the channeling Lada got. Molly McCord, who is great at literally downloading energy and saying what does she see there, and many other very good astrologers who either channel, who sense energy, who either do both channeling and reading charts like cognitively. And I kind of feel there is a very regressive atmosphere. It affects religions, it affects the relation to women, and it also affects the way that yin science is being seen in the world. Okay, the way and the place that we give for that which is less linear, less step by step, and more simply intuitive. And add that this argument that even intuition you need to learn first before you have intuition, and so on. Intuition and cognition. Sometimes you learn and then you get the intuition about this or about that, and you check and you combine these two. But some you haven't learned astrology and you get all kinds of these intuitions. And I've seen it with people who channel that they had no idea it has to do with astrology. They get all kinds of stuff, but they don't really know where and what it is. And then I look at the chart and I can delineate that, and I look at it from my point of view, they look at it from their point of view. So for all this, whether political, fiscal, the field is growing and people are terrified for their life, and this is totally understandable, and they react like terrified people. And so there's this great atmosphere that the place to be. For many of you can feel threatened, or that people may desire you to rob you out of your income in false accusations that you don't have a craft, you don't have this, you don't have that. And it kind of reminds me of the arguments that we've had around astronomy and astrology. Because in the end, this is where it's leading. It's leading to where you can't do it anything, and all you can have is, statistical research. And as a person who came from academia, I know very well in Moscow, I have had two good friends who did statistics, and there's this joke around statistical methods and people who do statistics for research. They make a lot of money. Who can do it, this is good money. And the joke goes like this: the researcher asks, well, what are the results? The person who does the statistics, if I'm going to try to say statistician, it's going to be funny. But the person who does the statistic, the big statistic person, said, well, what do you want to be? Because there's a way to pick and play with information in such a way that we will see that. And if you think that does not affect your medicine, or your psychology approach, or to some extent even the bridges that we build. We saw that with a certain implosion. The NASA itself was probably given askew information, but perhaps very optimistic, and a couple of billionaires died. So we heard about it, but usually you won't hear about the people who die. And they have a special treatment for the people who speak about this. So, in this atmosphere, it's important for me to pick up and to honor the people who did do and do intuitive astrology, the people who, yes, they know, of course you know, of course you know what is Sagittarius, what is this, what is that, and you allow also intuition to guide you. You see, it's a bit intuition, it's a bit that. The people who don't necessarily practice concrete event astrology, that they don't, what their job is not to tell you, you're gonna have this disease, this organ of the body in this month, and then it's not gonna be okay, but it's not gonna be bad, but then 3 years from there you die like this, okay? Because some people can tell you that, and I'll tell you what, in some cases, in many cases, they can be correct. Okay, concrete event astrology exists. However, and there are also spectrums. For example, if you're born around eclipses, gonna your life to be more and more fated the closer you come to eclipses, and probably other things that I didn't know as far, because Jupiter ruled according to interpretation, and that just is like, I'm not going to delineate your debt to you. Thank you very much. And as the saying goes, you cannot unsee a chart. And there are people who care, if you come to them as a client, they care to give you the message that is relevant for you at this time. And they can do this through astrology, and they can do this through channeling, they can combine both. So if you are one of these people that are intuitive astrologers, and you kind of feel like the world is funny, you're not imagining. And it's important for me to pay respect to yin science, to pay respect to intuition, to pay respect to patterns where we don't exactly know what and how, and it still works. And to not forget that the people who contributed to my wealth of knowledge, to my experiences, to what the inherent essence of the science of the is, which is both observation and channeling. And that plays a part as big as what supposed traditions, as the times are changing and the perspectives that are right for now evolve as well. So let us not, forget those among us who practice in ways that maybe seem different to us. But remember when you was an astrologer, young person, astrologer, and you just saw a couple of things that it doesn't seem to fit, that they fit so well, and maybe there's a pattern here, maybe there's a pattern there. And you started working, and then you had some value to give to people, so from your own life experience, a joint with this planet. You started charging for reading. And you read a couple of books and began to think you're a big shot. The minute that happens, as the whole thing goes, by Richard Feynman, physicist, would not approve of any of this when he was alive, but would rejoice in people doing it to try and see what's in there anyway. It doesn't matter who was this big person. It doesn't matter how intelligent they were. It doesn't matter how many people follow them. It doesn't matter how many times their theory proved to be true. If it doesn't work with experiment, if it doesn't work for you, at least for now, it's my interpretation on this, it's wrong, at least for now, at least for you. And the people that have the honor to say, my darling, I study astrology, I intuit things, I this, I that, my darling, if this does not work for you, what I say, doesn't matter how many times I fasted, how many times I danced ecstatically, how many times I did swirls around the globe. If what I channel to you is not relevant to you, doesn't work for you, toss it away. There's nothing I can do. On the masquerade of not being a charlatan, we are heading to Pluto in the age of Aquarius, where people are going to try to gain power over a very particular type of guru, which is the scientific guru. And those cults, okay? You want to look at some cults? You can Google, you can YouTube. You want to look at what's in there, you want to look at the stupid things people believed about women, the perhaps more humble mistakes that people made around how to deal with sexuality. Anybody that tells you that you can't do what you do, that you can't intuit, that limits your senses, that tries to put you down, that tries to demote you, okay? You don't know what crazy cults they're in. And this is a cult like science. Not a cult, a cult. And there's nothing wrong looking at a chart. There's nothing wrong with intuiting. There's everything wrong when somebody tells you that there's only one way to do this. Especially when it goes through pain and suffering and paying a lot of money and having to have a mentor and having to have this, having to have that. Then you know they're no longer doing science, nor do they practice astrology, nor do they do anything with spirit. They do both. And it's okay. Sit back, return to yourself, and say, I'm not a part of cults. So let's see. How do I deliver value to the world in a way that's actually making a contribution and honors my well-being and honors the well-being of others? So there's a big shout out to all the people who feel singled out because here's intuition. Pause. You don't go by the Ptolemy or this or that or this. You just go, oh, I this. Or and you get, oh, I'm getting something this, I'm getting, it's okay. For some people it will be relevant, for people not. Same as what everybody that studied the billion things, you know, nobody will expose the many times they got it. Nobody. Nobody will expose to you the many times a client threatened to them, the many times a client came out crying, and sometimes wouldn't even know because the client is just would please them, and then they would go and they would think to themselves, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, and we're all are capable of making mistakes. So the best thing to do is, you know, very difficult not to get aggravated, especially when you're just like, hey, let's learn from each other. Let's celebrate this nice field that we have. And, it used to be the house, whether this house system, that house system. Then poor Chris Brand spent breaking down every detail of the argument, and everybody says it's so good community. Okay, it is. If you hear these voices and nobody speaks about, nobody speaks against, nobody comes out, and you can't be an astrologer talking about women's rights to have an abortion and say that a person who does intuitive astrology is not an astrologer and does not deserve a place to make a life or making a living. Okay? You can't be supportive of the rights of neurodivergent people and say that a person who says, listen, at this, if you find good, if not, toss it away. Don't make me stand in the way of doing what you came here to do. If this is a good encounter, fine. If this is not good for you, sit away. Okay? You can't. You can't say the person is a charlatan. But definitely you can't say that a person that's been to so-and-so school, studied so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da-da, and as a Me Too veteran, I tell you, the day's short. You know? The day's short. And we're going to see all kinds of stuff. It has nothing to do with standardization. Everything you do in intuitive astrology, do your thing. I bless you. Whatever your methods for perfecting your skills are. No, Molly McCord is not lesser astrologer than anybody at the astrology podcast or at the, ISAR school or whatnot. Great astrologer. No, when Lada channels, not any way less informative than when Lada reads a chart. Yes, she studied astrology, and for her it came after a lot of studies, then she began to have downloads. This is the Uranus way. Okay? But sometimes it goes the other way around. Have an intuition, you where or what from, and then you begin to look at the chart. You don't know what it says, to see the basics. So you might something and you say this is connected to the moon, it's not connected to the moon at all. But you just try to understand how to explain even to yourself. I mean that what you said is not valid, you just channel it. Okay? We really gotta be, rational people and understand that knowledge comes in many ways, in many forms. And you can't, the many philosophers of science to try to come up with a democration question for the sciences. One by one, if they were good, they understood that even if there is some consensus or method or this or that, innovation comes from people who have relaxed standards for empiricism. And we need those are intuitive astrologers. Okay? Because you get stagnation, nothing on astronomy. And if that you're doing this frontier of our field, it's basically looking into the great vast, coming up with things that may be good, that may be completely wrong, and practicing it, and meeting people, and making life well, making and daring to charge enough so that you don't have to be human trafficked or to sell guns, to sell drugs, or to kill people for money. Yeah, I fully bless you. I fully support you. Okay, to be a decent human being, and for yourself, and for your time. It's absolutely okay. Okay. As long as you don't go and say, well, I studied by so and so and so, and you haven't studied by so and so and so. Yeah, not to such a big, but as long as it's not, and there's reason for it to be. There's no reason for it to be. And this is not what people do. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the intuitive astrologers that have been doing their thing and to keep on doing their thing, because we need you. Okay, we need you. All I have when I'm reading about lunar mansions, all I have is it's Picatry or Agrippa, and it's lovely. It's lovely. I don't get when it's good lunar mansion to have a relationship that can actually last. I didn't. Maybe I haven't gone to all of them. I didn't. Now there's this lunar mansion, the lovers, who say it's good for marriage. I don't know. Okay, I don't get it. If I don't have people to listen to that do stuff, that's new stuff, that can change my, that can bring something new to the field, then I'm just stuck with Agrippa, which is lovely, but there's a certain degree where that could be stagnant. We don't want to get stagnant. Even people, very very acclaimed people, they don't get into this standardization mess, like Christopher Warnock. He knows, he's a litigator, he knows, civil attorney, standardization. He knows what it can do, what it cannot, what it does do. Okay? He cares to see new people practice astrological magic in all kinds of value. That he cares for a very particular type of tradition, but he likes seeing people do new stuff. People take that old thingy and innovate on it. He likes it. Okay, that's why he stays in the field. People who get too dogmatic eventually perish. Either they perish or they retire, because you can't keep all the light. You know, like Gracia Tassi. Gracia Tassi doesn't get into this. No, she holds the light. She holds a candle for Babylonian astrology and the traditional magic. She holds a candle for those people too. So we need the people to hold a candle for the tradition. We absolutely cannot get rid of the people who renovate on tradition. And you have to do intuitive astrology. You can't. Where will you look? And there's another thing in every science. For my life, naturally, it happens. I have Uranus in Jupiter sign. And every 7-8 years or so, there's something new. I study something new from scratch. Okay? For me, it's natural. It's a good thing to do, because when you study something new from scratch, you look at it in brand new eyes. When you look at it in brand new eyes, you're going to get somewhere, because you're going to see something that the people before you didn't see with more ease than somebody who's been 20, 30 years in the field. That's why I always listen to young people, young astrologers. I had a young astrologer. I was the first reading. They studied the, how do you call it? No, yeah, evolutionary astrology. Okay, they did evolutionary astrology. And they looked at stuff in my chart that I had no idea. I had no idea my Palastotina is Uranus. I know where my Palastotina is. I know where Uranus is. I never. That was the first time they were given a paid reading to someone. You want to encourage people. And if you got encouraged, if you got pumped up, then please, this is the time to say thank you and to pass it on rather than to become a gatekeeper. It's very important, because that's size too, and especially now, because that creates a stagnation that you will suffer from eventually. These young people that you don't know what they do, let them. Sometimes they don't know what they do. Sometimes something really cool come out of it. Something really relevant for the times come out of it. And it's always going to be what people call intuitive. What you look at this, your first year students, like, I want to look at this. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Okay, why did I do sudden ingress into Gemini? Took some water. Why did I do this? What, am I crazy? No. Somebody needs to do this. No living astrologer had experienced Sedna in Gemini. Let's try to capture in Gemini, which was lovely, and I got good feedback with that. Okay? You can't step into the untried and true without this experiment. It does take intuitive astrology, and it does take asking your client, does it resonate? And it does take understanding you have to give. Even if you forgot the entire field of astrology, one day you woke up like you forgot everything. Okay? Remembered your own life experience. A client calls you, they're coming up with a question, unless it's a predictive thing, another consultation about junction, you might be able to give such value. It's going to be worth all the money used in this astrology. And you can come up with the greatest techniques, the greatest prediction, the client will come up crying out of the room. Even though you're the most sensitive that you were taught to be in this and that seminar and this and that, it's just life. So that's how I get it. And also on a personal level. It's probably something changing planetary hour now. I'll talk about a personal level. Relationships with people. Okay? You're always going to have a person who's more intuitive and a person more methodical. And it switches. Okay? Just this morning, I had a channeling to get certain Mercury talisman in Virgo. I was like, what? Virgo? Because I was thinking about talismans. It's like, Mercury in Virgo. Mercury in Virgo. So, okay, I'll get some Jupiter Pisces too. It says, no, Sagittarius. So what to my 7th house and to hone in on my midheaven, what they came here to do. Quite important, no? And then I said, I'm going to buy it now. I said, no, not now. Really was, I really wanted to work with these. So I casted the Horary chart. And he says, not now. At the beginning looked good. Okay, the moon styling Mercury, moon in Mercury sun. Pretty good position for them both, relatively. Yeah, then it was real baby. And then I was like, we did it again. Then I saw possessions, money, fate. What's the second house? Mars ruling the second house, sitting pretty. Mercury sun in Virgo, but in the house. I was like, okay. We did it step by step, even though the voice, the channel says, you don't do it now. Exactly what to do, but not right now. I needed the step by step. At this moment, I needed the step by step. Okay, you're always going to have, and even though you can, and sometimes the other way, it's like, hey, this is do this, you do this, I do this, okay, fine. They say, don't you want to, I don't want to check it, fine. And it can be within the same person, and it can be between two people, and that's a dynamic. If you don't honor both and the step, and under it, sometimes there are going to be decisions like, I do it. But I do it. And sometimes it's going to be, well, the intuition says, but look at the chart. No, I don't feel good doing this with this chart. Yeah. Sometimes it should be that. You're going to have very loud relationship, intimate relationships, if you're going to dismiss the way the other person comes up with a decision and comes to a certain judgment on the scale of step-by-step decision, methodical decision, and spark decision, gut feeling. Okay. Do that. Both cases, you could be dead wrong. It's absolutely right. And you wouldn't know if you're dead wrong or absolutely right. But the greatest, the greatest suffering arguments that people have is when somebody has an intuition and that is dismissed by the other partner, okay? Of course, say it happens to women, it's happening only, it happens to men too. You don't only have women and men. So that's on a personal note. Don't ruin your relationships. Why? You know, when you do this, the person feels invalidated, unloved, unseen, repressed, oppressed, spiritually gaslighted. I didn't think you're an at all. Then I'll go ahead, try to get it with them. The entire body shuts down. The vagina won't produce anymore. Okay, that's what happening to people. That I'm saying it bluntly. That's what happens to people. Okay? Um, when I worked in the sex education industry, we would have these calls. We would get these connections. We would understand what's actually going on and how things suddenly change when the communication improves, or they change a partner. And that is also something that happens. Somebody would tell me, can you tell me how to do this and that to get my partner to appreciate me? I say, I can get you, can give you tools to appreciate yourself. And we will both have to see and wait and see with whom will you be. Maybe you will be, alone for a while, and then we'll see where will it lead. With whom will you be? Maybe with this partner, maybe with another partner. But you need to be willing to, or at least set intention to hold the space that you can both shed the partner that you have in favor of someone who's actually appreciative of you, or you can find yourself with this partner and everything will be, the way you dream it to be. But this I cannot grant you. Which partner would you be? Okay? Is that being charlatan? No, that's being professional. And yes, there are some astrologers out there, at least some that I knew of. Okay, Nikola Stoyanovich. This is Nikola Stoyanovich told Lada when she was married, "You will get divorced." She said, "It's my second marriage. You will get divorced, and you will marry someone. You will be happy with them." This is what happens. And he told her how it will happen. This is what happens. Okay, that works too. Worked amazingly for her. Some other people did not like it, came out crying from his consultations because he would say what he sees. Okay. So we can't, we try to find something that works 100% of the times. It's human. We also try to find a business that will yield. And we don't have to run every 2 years into the market being flooded. Or there's this person that does it that way, or clients your clients will always complain to you about other astrologers, and to them also about you. So it's not a very good method to appreciate what's actually going on, and that's a problem. It's a problem in any field of consultation. So, and when schools are getting each other for their electricity bills, it's a problem. But if a young kid on the block can't money because they're a woman, or a person of color, because they are just this, new to this field, and they're naively thinking, oh, I have this intuition, I got this, and now they're being bombarded with I don't know what, then that's no good. That's no good business either at the end of the road, because these people are gonna do something. Okay, they need land, they need food too. It's not about just normalize to Hitler did that, still didn't work. So, this message comes across. My address is you, the people who do this intuitive astrology, channeling science, channeling in astrology. Maybe you've learned a lot of years astrology, you begin channel. Maybe you've learned channeling, then you received stuff about astrology, so you began to study astrology. It can happen in so many ways. And most likely a person who's genuinely dedicated to their craft, if they're not afraid for their income, There's nothing to do with talent. People are afraid for income also when there is marketing, they don't know how to market. I don't know where like, my income, what will be this, what that. But the thing is, you see somebody more busy, what makes you an astrologer or not, than with delivering content, you know there's a problem. And this is, what I'll end up with. We're gonna have to find new ways to do astrology. We're gonna have to find ways to provide content, but also for providing value using astrology. Because as you can see, this whole idea, you do a couple meetings, then you have a YouTube channel, then you sell a couple of courses. Market is overflown. Because anybody, you take a couple of courses, you give a couple of links, then you give a couple of courses, and then it's also reasonable that there's only so many people do that. And how do you scale up astrology? Well, it's not that easy to scale up. Okay, you see what happens with the stagnation in academia. I don't need to tell you. Everybody we want to be much like academia, and then you're starting to compete over prestige. And they're like, okay, perhaps it's better to be stupid and do business and scale up things. So you just to have academia run by stupid people. Because that happens in the field. So it's a part of life. There's a good reason every person is that they behave in this way. But it's also an important discussion to have. How do we take astrology to a place where we haven't taken it before? There's so many things. Some people do talismanic movies. Every product is a talisman. Every product is a talisman. Everything has time where it was made. Okay. Every product is a talisman. Doesn't mean you can just do it spot, but just the way you design a product, you also design it magically. Like I said, write art, we can do, and then now we've been talking about AI, okay? Then having a more dedicated art to this energy, to that energy, to deity, to that deity, and perhaps working with our deities can give what's the head, what do we do right now? It's not just, okay, let's make some dumb shit about charlatans and make the field incredibly stamped like the other, Patrick's. Like how we do better. And Pluto going to Aquarius asking us both on a political level, on a fiscal level, educational level, spiritual. Okay, how do we do better? How do we come up with something better? How do we steer clear of being, cult-like things? And it's a question. So I hope that resonates with you. And if it's not, toss it away, but not toss human away, and definitely not toss your relationship away because you have a partner more intuitive. Don't get their vagina yeasty. It's not fair for you, it's not for them.